Hello, welcome to This Day with BJ Arnett. Our special correspondent Jennifer Shugman had a great interview with a fascinating man. It was all about coffee beans. So let's take a look.
Dr. Bob Arnot is a medical correspondent, a foreign correspondent, he's a humanitarian, and most of all, he's kind of a thrill seeker. He's been on some pretty amazing adventures, including engaging pirates in Somalia. He's found himself in the middle of the Darfur crisis, and even patrolled the Taliban outside of Afghanistan with the 82nd Airborne. But in all of these adventures, he's asked himself and the people he's met one question, which is, how can we make the world a better place? And he's come up with a surprising answer. He's here today to tell us about it. Welcome to the show.
Thanks
you very much for being a part of this.
Great show.
So you found the answer in coffee?
Well, yes. You know, I had been for many years on the board of Save the Children, wonderful organization, and others. And we had always looked at how do you develop these countries that find themselves in such terrible poverty and chaos which can lead to terrorism and awful things. And so, you know, if you donate, which is a wonderful thing to do, that donation just lasts so long.
Right.
And you need another donation. So sustainable development means you give people something that is self-sustaining. So year after year, generation after generation, it continues to provide income. So coffee is a dream come true because these beans, which are the most biologically diverse of almost any crop on earth, I mean, tremendous, spectacular health values in them.
Wow.
And yet you only get those if it's a very good premium bean. And that means paying the farmers enough money to make it worth their while.
Yeah, of course.
So then better farms, better estates, better soil, better agriculture, better packing, better drying. You know, they spend all this effort on it, and so we pay them a lot more money for those beans. It means a few more pennies for a cup of coffee, but you can feel great that that farmer then can send his kids to school, that there's a clinic in the village, that there's a nearby hospital, and that they have a real future, not just for a year or 2 years, but for a generation.
Most people would be willing to pay more for that.
Would they?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. But there's also good for the environment in some ways. Tell me about that. Coffee can help the environment?
So it's very interesting because it's the ultimate good news story in that when you look at the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, you look at ways to sink that. So you can sink that in the rainforest with trees as an example.
Okay.
But if you were to take a piece of land and to plant these coffee bushes or trees, whatever you want to call them, and then plant shade trees on top of them, they're great sinks for carbon dioxide that pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So, you know, if you had a couple hundred square miles that could be fallow or that could be growing coffee, coffee is just a great solution.
Well, it sounds great from the standpoint of the people who are growing it, but for people like us to drink it, the health benefits, I've always heard it's a drug, it's a stimulant, it's not good for you.
You know, the whole time that I was both at CBS News and NBC News, I was always looking around for the next story that said there was something awful about coffee. And there was report after report after report. But finally, a group of friends of mine actually put together a study with nearly 5 million consumer years worth of experience.
Wow.
And that means they could sort through there. Of course, the observation was that coffee drinkers often drank alcohol, and they overate, and they overweight, and they didn't exercise. They had all the bad health habits.
Yeah. That's why they need the caffeine to boost them off the couch, right?
Yeah. So in part, people just assume that they were all cause and effect. But with this study, it was so large they could find what they call individual cohorts. So that would mean a group of coffee consumers, for instance, with zero risks, and they found astounding benefits. A 15% decrease in the all-cause death for women, and 10% per men.
Wait a second. All causes of death, no matter what the cause,
they call
15%
it, so they call
decrease.
it all-cause death.
Right.
And that would mean that not only the obvious, like heart disease and cancers, but stuff that's not so obvious, like accidents.
Wow.
Because, you know, you're a little bit more alert.
Oh, sure.
And even infectious disease, there's not an explanation for all of it.
Right.
We have a very good understanding of how it works, for instance, for heart disease and for diabetes. You know, you would know.
Coffee can help with diabetes.
Well, it's interesting, you know, again, these are observational studies, but the observation is that people tend to get less type 2 diabetes if they drink a lot of coffee. And that's because when you look at coffee and you say, what's so good about these wonderful beans, right? And what's so good about them is that they have what we call bioactives. That is, they have compounds in there that are very good for you. On the top of the list will be what we would call polyphenols. Now, it's a kind of a clumsy word, but nonetheless, a polyphenol is what makes fresh fruits and vegetables and green teas and red wines and olive oil healthy. Well, it turns out that there's more in coffee than almost anything in the American diet.
Really?
And then we sourced coffee beans around the world, went all over the world, and found these beans that had extraordinary qualities, up to 20 times as much polyphenols as another. So the fundamental question you would ask is, how much is in your cup?
Wow.
Do you have 6 milligrams or do you have 400 milligrams? So it makes a big difference which coffee you drink. But the answer is that now we believe that coffee is either the very best or the very worst thing you do to yourself every day.
Of course, because if I go through the drive-thru and I order a latte with extra caramel syrup and some cream on it, that's probably not healthy.
I mean, you'd have 600 calories there, and you could have, 20 or 30 grams of fat. So not the best thing in the world for you.
Right.
But one of the focal missions here is to say these unbelievably good and healthy beans that have all these health qualities also are the best tasting beans in the world.
Which is why we're adding all that other stuff, because it tastes like dirty water.
So the fascinating thing is that, if you taste a really great coffee, there are 1,200 flavor components there. There's a strawberry jam in some coffees, and a honey, and a cocoa, and a chocolate. See, we're what we would call dark roast nation, or even burnt roast nation, because during the cowboy era, when coffee was brought over from Indonesia, as an example, or Africa, I mean, it would spend months on a ship and would have, fungus